Hi, I'm Krista Cloutier of The Working Artist. I've spent my career working with other artists, sometimes in the studio, sometimes as a mentor and coach through the Working Artist Masterclass, and sometimes I get to work one-on-one with an artist and really explore their work, their brand, and their marketing plan through my Creative Career Catalyst sessions. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a talented Los Angeles artist named Antonio Muniz. We recently sat down for over 2 hours and we went deep into who he is as an artist, and we mapped out a marketing strategy during a Creative Career Catalyst session. I think of these sessions as the best part of my job. I hope you watch this video where I show parts of my conversation with Antonio, because I think that you'll find some gold here for yourself and for your art career too. So to start, let's meet Antonio Muniz. So nice to meet you.
Likewise, how are you today?
Oh, I'm really, really well. I've spent, what day is it? Sunday? I've spent the last couple days with your work and looking at your website, videos, and you've been in my head a lot.
Yeah, good.
Really good. It's really good. It's been such a pleasure to I'm having I've been having silent conversations with you for days now. This is what I do when I prepare for a Creative Career Catalyst session. I immerse myself in an artist's work and marketing materials and social media. And by the time we meet, I can't wait to get started. I feel like the work is really strong. I feel like you're doing everything right, and you're doing everything well. But I think it's time for you to do it differently, and I think you could do it better.
Right.
And yeah, so
No.
let's see if we can help you find that way. Antonio Muniz is an internationally exhibited artist who lives and works in Los Angeles. Antonio started his professional career as a designer, but he felt frustrated by the constraints, and so he began to explore alternatives that would give him more creative freedom. He became an artist and started painting with the idea of, quote, opening portals beyond what the eye normally sees, end quote. I love that. I always say that the best artists are the ones who take the time to learn their art history, and that's exactly what Antonio did. While he was studying the Surrealists, he discovered a technique called fumage, and he started to work with that. Because smoke constantly changes its form in space, Antonio felt it was the perfect medium for him to explore. So Antonio makes art with paint and smoke on canvas. It's really beautiful work and very well done. Like a lot of artists who sign up for a Creative Career Catalyst session, Antonio already has an exhibition record and solid social media presence and following. So why did Antonio want to work with me? Great question. So he sent me an email and he said, I've been exhibiting my work in galleries for the past 15 years, but I keep finding myself not being able to pass that threshold into bigger sales.
I've been, how I came across your site was I was trying to find ways how to expand my contact list, or how to reach out to different communities.
Yeah.
Because I need to broaden out from my Mexico crowd and LA, or, United States crowd. And I wanted to get out, pretty much out of the US, and go to, Europe and Asia.
I love helping artists to see their work and their brand in new ways. The first question I want to ask you is, where do your sales come from?
It's been through exhibitions, returning clients, word of mouth, referrals. So it's been mostly from that aspect. I was on a motorcycle accident a year and a half ago, which took me down for almost a year.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, I was getting back into it last year, and then COVID hit. So it's almost like,
Yeah.
And I see it as an opportunity to restruct everything of how I was so set on getting into a gallery and thinking that was the only way. And I've changed that already.
Good. Good. Yeah,
So
and I'm glad to hear that you had to. I can see that your work is very gallery and museum orientated, I can see a very traditional career track for you. And
mhm,
it looks like, looking at your CV, that that's the direction you were going. Um, but the world's changed.
mhm.
And I'm glad to hear you're willing to change with it. And
Yes.
I personally feel like this is the start of a new adventure for you. That
Mhm.
it's the start of it's exciting. I'm excited for you. And I'm glad you're willing to think outside the box. And it doesn't mean that traditional galleries and museum shows aren't in your future.
Correct.
They well could be, and there's nothing wrong with pursuing that. But I think you can cast your net wider now. As an artist, how can you create more meaningful connections? Social media and online marketing are great tools, but they often feel forced and empty, don't they? Yet it's important that you build connections with your audience, with clients, and with art world decision makers. And I believe that begins by connecting with yourself. So, we ask questions because they guide us on our path and also toward true authenticity in our message. But that word, authenticity, it's everywhere these days, isn't it? It's ironic in many ways that the word authentic is used so much that it's become inauthentic. So let's take a deep breath. Let's get centered. Let's get real. Now, I asked Antonio some questions, and I want you to think about how you would answer them too. What do you need to prosper as an individual? And what does it mean to you to prosper?
To prosper, I think right now, my desired goal is to be able to live off my work. Like, but to create a constant flow.
Revenue stream.
Yes. Um, yes. Right now, before it was just getting into a gallery, and that was sort of like what was going to give me security. I was so wrong. Like I said.
Mhm.
And I think it's more right now me opening my own road and creating my own stability in that sense.
I think so too. Yeah, the word security is a tricky one because it feels like every time we go for security, especially these days, the universe pulls it away to say there's no such thing. There's no such thing. The security is in you. What do you want from your art? Antonio wants his art to bring in revenue streams, and I would say 99% of the artists I speak with want this too. And if they're already making money, they want to make more. Fair enough. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think it's helpful to remember your art does not exist to support you. You exist to support your art. That doesn't mean that you can't make money from your work. You totally can. But it shifts the responsibility to where it belongs, to you. What does your heart want?
What does my heart want? Like it changed because before I was just going for the recognition, and the status, and since my accident, I was able to process all that. So right now it's just really to make a living from my passion.
Right.
You know,
Doing what you're doing.
yeah.
Yeah. So, where do you think you should be putting your energy?
Um, at the moment, well, I need to get back into. I haven't been painting for almost a month because I was focused on reaching other communities.
Right.
So I was, that's how I came across your information. But I saw the importance of targeting directly art collectors, art advisors, or private collectors. Um, the interior designers, all that,
Okay.
and that's where I think a good percentage of my time needs to be right now, and keep that in production, evenly.
Here's some more questions. Look within and ask yourself, what are you trying to say with your work? What are you trying to give? If you think of your art as your gift to the world, what is it sharing? Is it a message? Is it awareness of something? Is it beauty? Is it a part of you and your history? The answers to those questions will guide you as you create your marketing plan. Listen, I've spent my whole career in the world of contemporary art, and I can say with some certainty that there are very talented artists who never achieve their dreams. And there are artists who are not so talented who show and sell consistently. The difference is in the marketing. It's that important. So don't put the responsibility for success on the work itself. Take responsibility for it. And the best way to start marketing your work is to notice what people see when they look at it. What do you think it is that they're really connecting with?
I think, I don't know if it's the spiritual part or I think it's that in my approach to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I think. Since the time of the ancients, smoke has been used ritualistically to bring visions or to open the soul. When Antonio speaks of the spiritual, he's referring to his fumage process. Antonio is interested in using his art to explore the ritual processes of smoke, and he's learned that his audience connects with this spiritual aspect of his work. Antonio was posting regularly, and his posts were fine, but he was feeling like it was a struggle to know what to post. And who was he posting for? He was afraid that his message was confusing, and in a way he was right. His buyers were connecting with the spiritual aspects of his work and with the fumage process. But that's not really what he was posting about. That's the way I like to think of social media and the newsletters and all of that. I like to think of it as a way to teach people to see our work. And
Okay.
you do a great job of explaining your work in your videos. Like I said, you seem really comfortable talking about your work, and I love the language that you use to discuss your work. I think music could be another aspect that you could draw another audience in, and that's just my intuition, because like I said, I look at your work and I hear music. I think about music. So we use social media to teach people how to see our work. And that includes gallerists and curators and all the other gatekeepers of the art world as well. Too often it's easy to make them seem bigger than life in our minds because they seem to hold so much power. But at the end of the day, they're just people. Antonio was trying to speak to everyone on his social media channel and on his social media channels. But his real strength is in being himself and in speaking his truth. Where I see something missing in what you're doing, and like I said, I think you're doing everything right, and I think you're doing everything well. I just think you could do it better. And I think it's creating a bridge between you and the work. And galleries, people always say, galleries want this, galleries think that. Well, galleries are people. They're people at the end of the day. And yeah, we want to get into a gallery, and it is this closed door thing, and they want this and they want that. But I don't think that you can morph yourself into something that's intangible can want. I think you should appeal to people and appeal to the humanity behind those doors of the gallery. And I think you'll attract a bigger audience that way. And I think you'll have a better time too posting.
I do agree with you.
We've all heard about the importance of using stories in our marketing. I spoke with Antonio about how we can best use his. Because we tell them stories to teach them how to see it. In the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of postmodern discourse where only a few people could understand the language that would help them to understand the work, and if they really did understand that language. But it really cut a lot of people off, and it really narrowed the market. And when I was selling art, I tried to get rid of that bullshit and just
Uh-huh.
think about the story behind the art, the artist, the intention, the process, whatever the story was. It's different for every single artist. And for you, this is what I see your story as. And I think that people will be drawn to this story.
Mm-hmm.
And in line with that, this is a little aside, you could really expand your hashtags too, because your hashtags, they're good, but they're very traditional, art focused. Every other artist is using very similar hashtags. But look at the music, look at the subject matter. What else are you going to talk about when you're talking about that piece in a post? Bring some of that
Mm-hmm.
in to expand your reach a little bit. What's your story? Are you telling your audience the right story? By telling your true, your authentic story, and there's that word again, you will make yourself and your work more approachable. But the beauty of the
Mm-hmm.
internet is people who are normally afraid of art or afraid of galleries can see something and connect with it. And they don't
Mm-hmm.
have to have a lot of money. They don't have to have a PhD in art history. They don't have to know how to speak that language. They just see something they like with someone who feels approachable and they want to
Mm-hmm.
follow and learn more about, and then they'll buy a piece. So, how do you write about your work for social media? Here's some more advice that I shared with Antonio. So, going back to those quotes from your video about smoke used in ancient ceremonies and what smoke
Uh-huh.
means to you and how you work with it and intentions, these are all things that could be social media posts. So
Okay.
go through all the videos where you talk about your work and pull things out. And remember, make it
Mm-hmm.
really simple, really short.
Mm-hmm.
You have so much information there already that you could be using
Yeah.
on your social media posts, and you'd be showing more of yourself. Don't forget that a part of showing who you really are and telling your story also includes the people and the inspirations that led you there. The other things that you could add in, I've got other ideas. Your your influences. Talk about other artists.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that the more you can talk about and promote other artists uh,
Mm-hmm.
in your community or in your own history who have influenced you, or teachers, or artists you've looked at in history books, the better.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Be really generous with other artists. And that, remember I
Okay.
said in New York, the galleries were getting their artists from collectors and from other artists.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, Stories, something that happened to you, something that happened in the studio. The story of your motorcycle accident, I don't know how you can talk about that or bring that into your work, but I think it might be really interesting what you learned, what happened, what you learned, what that was like. And again, we're just really
Uh-huh.
getting the fire of that story. So you don't have to go
Mm-hmm.
into a big long thing. You don't have to write a book about it or a short story. We're really just looking at a short post, the
Mm-hmm.
essence of it. And that goes back to that. Where's the fire that made this smoke? Another way for you to connect with your audience is through email marketing. You start with what we discussed about what to post on social media. Short and sweet details about the processes, about your story, etc., etc. But then in your email marketing, you can go even deeper.
I feel from everything we've talked to about is the most important is to talk about my art, and share that in social media and the newsletters. And like I say, I think making the bridge is the most important thing
Yeah.
so far. I think because that's what I think is missing.
Mm-hmm.
And start pulling people apart and get them excited and interesting.
Yeah.
Of the
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
So what we're really looking to do here, Antonio, is to create inbound traffic, for lack of a better
Mm-hmm.
word, where people are
Mm-hmm.
coming to you. People are interested in what you're doing, and they're coming to you. They're following you on social media. That's interesting. oh, he's gonna do a live event, or he's got a video. I'm gonna be there for that. Oh, I'm gonna go to his website. He's running a sale, or he's got an email list and he does this on the email list. So you're pulling them in instead of buying email lists, buying social media followers, sending out these mass emails to people who may or may not open them and you don't know. Um, Energetically, there's a real difference there, and I think one will feed you, and I think the other will deplete you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
And one
like
will be
that.
more authentic and attract the right people, maybe not as much people, but they'll be the right
Mm-hmm.
people because it'll be
The
a
right people.
yeah.
Yeah. So I just put send emails to feed, to enrich someone else's, in whatever way,
Yeah, to connect.
Mm-hmm. To connect. I like that. Okay. See, this helps in terms of I've always struggled. Like, what do I say in this email? Why do I put the subject? Like, what do I share now? Besides here's another piece. You
Right.
know, and I think makes it definitely more engaging, interesting, fun.
Hmm.
Like a whole different energy. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm excited about it.
I'm excited too. Cause I've worked really, really hard with my work, and I've
Shows.
seen how it has progressed. So I'm very happy I think it's in a great point. It will continue growing and evolving, but I think it is there already.
Hmm.
But I'm missing all this that we talk about.
Remember, the reason that Antonio signed up for my Creative Career Catalyst session was to expand his reach beyond individual collectors. While this can be difficult when the world is topsy-turvy, we can still create action steps and we can always be working toward the long term. So what we're going to do
Mm-hmm.
right now is kind of lay the foundation for moving forward, and you don't have to do all of this right now. We'll be thinking about how you're branding yourself and how you're presenting yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
those pieces will be more in place. Also, it's going to take a little time to find those connections and to find out what you have in common with them and who's the best people for you to reach out to. Antonio asked about working with interior designers, and I spoke about how I created relationships with interior designers when I was an art dealer and how I was able to make real connections. So, interior designers, every community, every state has there's like associations, like International Association of Interior Designers, and there's probably a California one. So if you Google California interior designers, you can often join them as a vendor. And
Mm-hmm.
when they have meetings, when it's not COVID, you can be invited to some of the networking events,
Okay.
which would be a really great investment. And some of
Mm-hmm.
them, when you join as a vendor, you can also get their mailing list,
Mm-hmm.
which would also be a good investment if that's a direction you want to go. One thing I used to do with interior designers, um, if there was someone that I wanted to meet and to show, and I thought it was a really good match, I might offer to, this might sound crazy, but offer to bring lunch to their offices.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a presentation while they ate lunch. So I
Mm-hmm.
might bring a bunch of sandwiches or salads or, things like that and hang out with them, have a conversation, get to know them, and then it was almost like a studio tour. So instead of asking people to come to your studio, you're going to theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So do you see how much easier that is? Instead of someone like, oh my God, I got to drive over here, I got to go over there, and I got to come back
Mm-hmm.
and tell everyone in the office about this. There's a lot of hurdles there. But if you are coming to their place during lunch and you're bringing lunch, it
Mm-hmm.
opens a lot of doors. And that
Okay.
might not be your style. That's fine. I'm just telling you some things I know that have worked for me in the past. And
Mm-hmm.
again, post COVID, who knows how long it'll be before you can go into someone's office.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Correct.
but we'll think long term. I know that reaching out to people whom you haven't met yet can be really scary. It can also be soul destroying because the truth is the vast majority of emails that artists send out to decision makers end up getting the delete button. So I've created a formula for introductory emails. You might want to take notes because this formula really works. So, the best way I know to speak to people's humanity is by researching them and getting to know who they are as people.
For anyone we talk about, it's really important, I think, especially now, to invest in the relationship. So instead of, you can send an email, and I saw some of the emails you send out, and
Right.
the best one was you send an email to someone you already knew, and that was perfect. The blind emails are a little like 100 other emails they get every day. So I have a formula, and I'll tell it to you. I think it's important to really invest in researching the person you want to reach out to, because not every interior designer should handle your work. Some of them might be, working with a totally different aesthetic or a totally different clientele. So it's investing the time to find out who they are. I always say that gallery relationships are like marriages, but I think that's true in, if you want to work with an art advisor or an interior designer and you want to have a relationship with them, any relationship means you've got to know who they are first. Instead of approaching them and saying, this is who I am, find out who they are first. So when you write to them, you already have an understanding of who they are and you know why it's a good fit. So when I write to a interior designer, any art world decision maker, for lack of a better term, I always start out with a compliment to show them that they've been seen, that I know who they are. If they've written a book, I've read the book before I reach them. I've already connected with them on social media. I've gone back. I've Googled them. I try to find out everything I can so I can find something there that I can compliment them on. And then the second paragraph is about, or just something that shows like why it makes sense for you to write to them. But I think a compliment is always the best way. The second paragraph is like, what's the connection? Maybe they handle an artist that you've had a show with. Maybe they know your brother. Maybe they've worked with smoke before or fire, or, like I said, you read their book and it changed your life. There's something there that it makes sense that you would write to them. And then the third paragraph is your ask. What do you want? And that has opened a lot more doors for me. And the secret sauce to all of that is to end it by saying that you're going to follow up. And then even though everybody hates following up, give them 2 weeks and follow up, 10 days to 2 weeks, and then actually follow up. Send another email, pick up the telephone and call, whatever you can stomach.
What's one easy way to get on someone's radar? Follow and engage with them on social media. You're already on there and engaging with your own followers, right? Why not use the same practices for professional connections too?
The other thing I do, if I find someone that I want to reach out to, I'll find them on social media. I'll follow them on all the social media channels and start liking things, start commenting, start sharing. You don't have to be a stalker. You don't have to be creepy. But by the time you send them an email, they'll know your name. And they're much more likely to open your email, to read your email, and to respond to your email, rather than one of 100 other people who write them every day.
Another great way to speak to someone's humanity and make yourself stand out is to send a snail mail. I mean, who doesn't love getting real life mail these days? Our email boxes are so overflowing. Don't you just love having something you can hold in your hands? I know I do.
And another thing you could think about with art advisors, interior designers, curators, etc., is instead of sending them an email, is send them something in snail mail with some printouts of your work. Because it's
I wanted to ask you because I was in the process of doing a small catalog.
Great.
Like an 8 by something with 14 images to be able to send someone.
Yeah. And maybe you'd follow this formula. And if you don't want to make the investment in sending out a bunch of catalogs as part of your introduction, I mean, you would still have that introductory okay, let me go back. If you were going to send it out cold to someone, you would still like already be following them on social media, have already, you know, still send this letter with a form so they don't just toss it.
Got it.
Yeah, but if you need to economize a little bit, you could send out that form email, follow all the steps, and the call to action in the email would be, would it be okay if I sent you via snail mail my catalog? I'd love to show you my work and have you have something to hold in your hands. It's really cool. I think you'd like it. And then you have a reason to call them 2 weeks later. Did you get the package? You know, what did you think? So then you take more and more and more in person.
Now that you've reached out to them, whether online, by snail mail, or even in person, you need to follow up. Ugh, everybody hates the follow-up. One way to make it easier is by creating a list of questions or things to talk about ahead of time to make sure the conversation keeps going, and it's not relying on them and their responses.
Hey, I'm just calling to make sure you got the catalog. Oh, good. You know, a lot of things going on with the pen, you know, a lot of things going on with the post office. Just wanted to make sure it got there. Did you have any questions? What did you think? But in your head, you know, you want to see what the next step is. So you want to have one ready for them. You know, can I send you any more? Have you checked out my website? Is there any way we could work together? Do you have any clients you think might be interested? So don't put the whole thing on them, you know, if you call them, keep the conversation moving. When I was selling art, I used to sell over the phone actually. And I would have like questions written out. I would have, you know, things I learned about them, maybe in our last conversation or when I Googled them, I would have those things there. I would keep all these notes. So for every client, I had a different file. So if I called them again, even the next year, you know, hey, how are you doing? You know, it seems like this was like your birthday time last year, you know, how was your sick dog or something like that. I just always kept those relationships going because the art business is all about relationships. And I think you probably do that well, which is why you do so well in person when you sell. So just try to remember that and keep it real as much as you can.
Another way to get on the radar of interior designers, curators, gallerists, and collectors is by showing at an art fair. This is a great way to meet people in person with your work, but without the added pressure of the one-on-one conversation like in a cold call. Art fairs aren't for everyone, and at the time we're filming this, they're all closed down. But I recommend this route to Antonio because he has a strong history of selling work in person, and also because his target audience would likely to be at an art fair.
I was wondering why you haven't done any art fairs. It seems like your work would be really good for an art fair.
Well, first of all, the impression I always had was to be in an art fair was through a gallery.
Oh yeah, okay.
You know, because that's to invest on a space, on a booth and stuff like that. It's crazy. I mean, right now. So then I thought of, you know, the other art fair.
Yeah.
But they still charge from what I understood. But then, you know, that thing stops right now. So I was sort of
waiting. That's okay. When things change and when you feel like you've got the money to make the investment, consider art fairs because it would be a great way to meet people. Anything you can do to meet people in person would be really beneficial for you because always remember that's where your sales come from. Or you can connect with someone in a real way, the better for you. So art fairs would be great for building your mailing list, for meeting gallerists. You know, it can open a lot of doors, but it is a big investment. If and when you decide you want to do an art fair, I have an online course called Art Fair Essentials that takes you through every step of the process of thinking about it and putting it together. And I'm happy to gift you the access to that. So just reach out to me and I'll send you a coupon code and you can do that class. I think
Thank you. Okay.
By the way, my Art Fair Essentials class is also included with your membership of the Working Artist Masterclass, should you join.
This was so much fun. This was great.
Yes.
This is my favorite part of my job.
You know, working one-on-one with artists is the best part of my job. I really love it. I want to thank Antonio Muniz for graciously allowing me to share parts of our conversation with you. I invite you to follow Antonio on Instagram because I'm sure he's going to continue to inspire you. Now, do you remember how we started out with questions? I'm going to end with a question too. Ask yourself, if I could achieve the level of success I want in the art world, how much would it be worth to me? You know, as artists, we're always asking other people to invest in us and in our work. But are you willing to make the investment in yourself? The artist journey isn't easy, but it's worth it. Your work is worth it. You are worth it. And the artists who work with me say that the investment of time and money they made was well worth it. Now, if you're an artist who needs to be pushed to do the work or to be held accountable to someone else, that's not me. I work with artists who are already committed to the changes they need to make to becoming the artist that they want to be. If you sign up for my Creative Career Catalyst session, I will go deep into your website, into your social media, into your marketing materials, and into your work itself. I will give you clarity and direction. You will feel inspired and confident because you will know exactly what steps to take next and the steps to take after that. So, if you're a mid-career artist who's feeling stuck, consider booking a Creative Career Catalyst session with me. You're welcome to send me an email with any questions that you might have.